Welcome back. This is episode 7 of Crypto Options from Zero. For 6 episodes, we looked at one thing: your position. What an option is, what it costs, how it reacts, how to buy one. From here, we change perspective. We stop looking at ourselves and start looking at everyone else. This is where part 2 of the course begins. Last episode, I said one sentence that we're going to unpack now. I said, volume is movement. Open interest is state. Sounds simple. But mixing those two up is one of the classic mistakes, so let's do it properly. Picture a parking garage at a shopping mall. There's a gate at the entrance, and it counts every car that passes through. Open interest is the number of cars currently parked inside. How many spaces are taken right now? Volume is the number of cars that went through the gate since this morning. Entries and exits together. A concrete example. In the morning, 100 cars drive in. The gate counts 100. The garage has 100 spaces taken. In the afternoon, those same 100 cars leave. The gate counts another 100, because leaving is also passing through. The garage is empty. End of day, 200 cars through the gate. Not one car parked. Options work the same way. Somebody bought contracts in the morning and sold them in the afternoon. Enormous volume, same number of open positions as at the start, which gives you 3 situations worth telling apart. High volume with no rise in open interest. That's rotation. Positions churning, nothing lasting being built. High volume with rising open interest. Something is being built. That's the more meaningful signal. High volume with falling open interest. Somebody is closing large positions. Often somebody who matters. Lock it in with numbers. 1,000 contracts of volume, open interest unchanged. Plenty of movement, 0 new positioning. So you know what open interest is. But the number on its own doesn't give you much. Because what matters isn't how much of it there is in total. What matters is where it sits. At which strike, at which expiry, and on which side yolls or puts. Back to the parking garage. You don't care that 1,000 cars are in there. You care that 500 of them are parked by one exit. Options are the same. Open interest doesn't spread evenly. It gathers in clusters. A handful of strikes pull in most of the positions, and the rest sit nearly empty. And those clusters usually aren't random. They tend to sit on round numbers. 60,000, 70, 80. An example. Bitcoin is at 67,000. The largest put cluster sits at 60,000, 12,400 contracts. The largest call cluster at 70. And here's the most interesting thing in this episode. Large open interest clusters often behave like magnets. Around expiry, price tends to stick to the levels where the most positions are sitting. In our example, price will lean toward moving between 60 and 70, rather than breaking cleanly out of that range. I want to stress that word. Tends. Not always. A cluster isn't a forecast. It's a place where the market pushes back harder. Why that happens, I'll explain next episode. There's a specific mechanism behind it. Let's see this on real data right away. This is volume by strike. Each bar is one strike, and the height is how many contracts changed hands there today. So this is our gate. How many cars went through each one? And now the same market, but open interest. How many positions are sitting open? Look at this particular strike. Volume here was high, but open interest barely moved. That's exactly the parking situation. Plenty of traffic, no new positioning. And over here, it's the opposite. Moderate volume, but high open interest. Somebody built a position there and is holding it. And you can see the second thing straight away. The spread isn't even. A handful of strikes take the clear majority, and the tallest bars sit on round numbers. The same data splits by expiry date too. Then you see which dates the market is clustered around, usually month ends and quarter ends. That was the picture of state, where positions sit. Now let's see how that state changes. There's one more way of reading open interest, and it's very practical. You put it next to price. 4 combinations, each saying something different. 1. Price rises and open interest rises. New positions are supporting the move, usually healthy, though at extreme readings, watch for overheating. 2. Price rises but open interest falls. This is the important distinction. The move isn't coming from new positions, it's coming from old ones being closed. Somebody who was short is buying back. Moves like that tend to be less durable. 3. Price falls and open interest rises. Downside positioning is being built. Could be new shorts, but just as easily hedges, somebody buying puts to protect a portfolio. 4. Price falls and open interest falls too. The market is clearing out positions. That's often the end of a decline rather than the start of one. Lock in the second one because it's the trickiest. Price up, open interest down. That's short covering, not conviction. New buyers didn't arrive, old sellers left, which gives you a rule. Price and open interest read separately say very little. Together they form a sentence. Let's check that on the chart right away. This is the change in open interest. Not how many positions exist in total, but how many were added or removed today. Bars up are new positions. Bars down are positions being closed. And that's far more current information than the total, because the total builds over weeks, while the change shows you what people are doing now. If you see a big increase at one strike, something is being built there. Worth noting that level closes the first half of the episode. You know how open interest differs from volume, where it gathers, why clusters act like magnets, and what pairing it with price tells you. All of that was the picture of state. Now we move to what's happening right now. Open interest tells you positions exist. Flow tells you somebody is doing something right now. Back to the parking garage one last time. Open interest is the view from above, how many cars are parked. Flow is the camera at the gate. You see what's driving in at this moment and what kind of cars they are. In options, flow is order flow. Who is buying or selling what and when? 4 questions for any flow. What's being bought, calls, or puts? At which strike? At which expiry? And does it look like speculation, a hedge, or part of a bigger structure? Because the reading depends on the answer. Buying calls might be a bet on upside, or it might be hedging somebody's short position. Buying puts might be a bet on a fall, but far more often it's ordinary portfolio insurance. Selling calls is usually collecting premium, or a view that price won't go above a certain level. And selling puts is often a signal that somebody would like to buy lower and is getting paid for that willingness. A separate category is block trades, large transactions arranged away from the public order book between institutions. They tend to be more deliberate than retail clicking, which is why people pay them special attention, sometimes too much. Picture a headline like this: Whale buys 5,000 puts at the 50,000 strike. A crash must be coming. That's the most common mistake in reading flow. It's worth understanding why it's a mistake. Back to insurance, from episode 5. Your neighbor took out an enormous policy on their house. Does that mean they know a fire is coming? Almost certainly not. Maybe they just bought the house. Maybe they renewed a policy they've held for years. Maybe the bank required coverage for the mortgage. The whale is identical. Those 5,000 puts could be 4 completely different things. First, a hedge. Somebody holds a large Bitcoin portfolio and is buying protection. That isn't a bet on a fall. It's the defense of somebody who is long. Second, a roll. The whale already had that protection, but it was expiring. They just moved it to a later date. Nothing in their view has changed. Third, part of a structure. They may have sold calls at the same time. Then, it isn't a bet on a fall at all. It's a completely different construction. Fourth, a bet on volatility, not direction. Somebody expects a large move around an event and doesn't care which way it goes, which gives you a rule worth taking literally. One flow is never a thesis. A signal comes from a series of consistent flows, confirmed by other things: volatility, skew, price structure. A single transaction tells you somebody did something. It doesn't tell you why. And with that in mind, let's look at some real flow. This is flow direction. Buying and selling split out, separately for calls and separately for puts. So exactly those 4 categories I described: call buying, call selling, put buying, put selling. You can see which side has the upper hand at any moment. And that's useful. But remember what you just learned. That imbalance tells you what people are doing. It doesn't tell you why they're doing it. If you see heavy put buying, that could be fear. But it could just as easily be routine hedging of long portfolios in a perfectly calm market. The chart won't tell those apart. Underneath, the system writes out a reading that includes the ratio between puts and calls. We'll come back to that in a second. Flow tells you what's happening, not why. One last tool, and I'll say it up front. This is a supplement, not a primary signal. The put-call ratio is exactly what it sounds like. You divide put volume by call volume. You can run the same calculation on open interest. A high reading means trading is dominated by puts, defense, hedging, fear. A low reading means calls dominate, appetite for upside. Sounds useful? Now the problem. Imagine walking down a street counting umbrellas. Lots of umbrellas. People expect rain, right? Not necessarily. Some carry one out of habit. Some because they're going a long way. Some have had it in their bag for a week and don't even remember it's there. The put-call ratio is the same. And this is exactly what you just saw on the flowchart. A put could be bought as a bet on a fall or as a hedge. The ratio doesn't tell those apart. So, when does it work? At extremes. Above 1.5 after clear panic. Often a contrarian signal. If everybody has rushed for protection, the fear is already in the price. Same logic as extreme skew from episode 5. Below 0.5, at highs, a warning. The market is getting greedy. Between those values, it usually tells you nothing useful. To finish, back to the magnet from earlier, because the system calculates it for you. This is max pain, the level at which the most options would expire completely worthless. Theoretically, the most painful outcome for the majority of holders. The line shows how that level moves over time, and next to it is the current price. The closer to expiry and the wider the gap, the more interesting it gets. Notice that max pain moves by itself. It isn't nailed to one place. It shifts as people open and close positions. And now the caveat, without which this chart is dangerous. Max pain is an indication, not a prophecy. It works better close to expiry than a week out. And better in a calm market than in the middle of a strong trend. Treat it as one signal among several, not as a target price has to reach. You saw 4 charts today, and each one answers a different question. Open interest by strike. Where positions sit. Change in open interest. What's being built right now? Flow direction. Which side has the upper hand? Max point. Where the magnet is. And from the episode as a whole, 4 things to remember. 1. Open interest is state, volume is movement. High volume with no rise in open interest is rotation, not new positioning. 2. With open interest, what matters most is where it sits. Clusters on round numbers often behave like magnets around expiry. 3. And most important, one flow is never a thesis. A large transaction tells you somebody did something. It doesn't tell you why. 4. The put-call ratio is a supplement, useful at extremes, misleading in the middle of the range. And one thing above those 4. Everything I showed you today is observation, not prediction. Positioning tells you where the market carries its weight. It doesn't tell you where it's going. Twice in this episode, I said that a large open interest cluster affects price, and twice I didn't explain why. Next episode, I fix that. You'll learn the mechanism behind it, who has to hedge their positions, how they do it, and why that hedging can push the price of Bitcoin itself. It's called gamma exposure. See you in episode 8.